Budapest.
Okay, so we are live now.
Almost. 1 second. Go.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes? Mm-hmm. Good. So a warm welcome. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to the Inside Art Conference in the frame of Art Market Budapest 2020. And my name is Nicole Loeser. I will be your moderator and host tonight for this event called Rebirth Forum Budapest virtual meeting. And I warmly welcome our panelists tonight. And they are here with us. And I warmly welcome Michelangelo Pistoletto. Hello. Yeah, Michelangelo Pistoletto is a very famous artist, Italian painter, action and object artist, and art theorist. And one of the most acknowledged contemporary Italian artists, you could say. I also warmly welcome Paolo Naldini, Managing Director of Cittadellarte, Fondazione Pistoletto from Biella. And our third panelist tonight is Federico Botto, and he is the ambassador of the Third Paradise Budapest. Hello.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
Yeah. So tonight, I mean, we have 60 minutes of a very interesting talk, I guess. And we will dive a bit into the missions of Cittadellarte Fondazione Pistoletto and the Rebirth Forum and all the embassies around the world. And what can we do to also establish the embassy in Budapest, in Hungary. So we already started last year with a pre-event, and to let our people, our attendees here of the event also get to know a little bit more the idea behind the Rebirth Forum, the Third Paradise. I would like to ask Michelangelo first to give us a bit the meaning of the symbol and how the whole project started.
Hello. Yes, the symbol is, in reality, it's a formula. It is the formula of the creation. The creation, how the creation happened in the connection always of two elements that combine together in the center of the symbol and produce something that didn't exist before. The formula is made by the sign of infinity, the mathematical sign of infinity. That is a line that is crossing itself, producing those two circles. I crossed the line 2 times, producing 3 circles. The 2 external circles represent all the different elements that will be combined in the center in order to create something that didn't exist before, a new element. The formula is 1 and 1, that means 1 in one side, 1 at the other side, makes 3. The number 3 is the result of the combination of the duality. This is the base of this symbol that is used, for example, to show what can be oxygen in one side, hydrogen on the other side. In the center, you have water. You have the masculine in one side. The other side, you have feminine. In the center, you have a new individual, a new person that didn't exist before. You can have the color blue in one side, the color yellow on the other side. In the center, you have the green. That is the combination of the two. And so that is also clear that this symbol is the symbol of the balance. Of the balance. You have two elements in the center. You have the creation and the balance between the two elements. So the capacity of using the creativity individually is very important, but for me is not enough. We have to use this capacity of making creation together, also with the artists and other people in order to activate a new creation that is the new society. We need today have an evolution in the social life. For example, the word third paradise represents that exists there's already a first paradise, that is the paradise when we were totally included in the nature. The second paradise is the artificial paradise that we create during the past time until today. And today we have this second paradise conflicting with the nature. And so we have to make a new step, combining the second paradise and the first, and create the third paradise, that is the third step of the humanity. This is the basic, very ambitious vision that we have. But starting from that, we have to go in the details and start to work with all the little reports, the little things that we can find in our meeting in the society, in the meeting of the people. Two people together they are already a little society. They have always to arrange something. They have to always organize something. And so we have to understand that everybody has the capacity of activating a creation. That means also not only a personal but a common creation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your great art approach and your great concept behind the third paradise. And I would like it to go even deeper. So you founded also in 1996 the Cittadellarte Fondazione Pistoletto, and also had this idea of demopraxia. Could you tell us also a bit more about that? Or maybe Paolo, if you like to add something on that, yeah, you are more than welcome.
I can speak a little bit about Cittadellarte. But the origin of Cittadellarte is a manifesto that they make in '94 that is called Progetto Arte, Project of Art. That in the manifesto I was writing that it's time now for the artist to take the responsibility of connecting all the different sectors of the life, from politics to economy, from religion to education, from architecture to fashion, to behavior. Everything should be connected in order to make a new to create a new combination between all that in a creative way. And the creativity is the dynamic of the connection of all that. And so I wanted to have a place, because they were saying to me that my idea, it was just utopia. I said, but utopia, it means no place. But I have now a place. I bought a place that is an old factory. And I have the project. Progetto Arte is a project. I have the place. I have the project. So now we have to work to realize the project starting from that place. And it is what we did. So Cittadellarte is an organization that connects all the young people that come from all over the world with the cost connect through all the young people, art and society, and they have to invent, to create. It is what we call university of ideas. To have ideas for individual and common project.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And regarding the term of demopraxia, that is also like an underlying concept of the third paradise. Could you also explain that to us, please?
I would like about demopraxia that Paolo Naldini speak about, because he invented the word demopraxia. So, and we of course not alone, but in long discussion also with the student of the third paradise, the University of Ideas. On University of Ideas, and so I leave the floor to Paolo.
May I just ask a question to Paolo before we started? Because I saw your manifesto, Pandemopraxia. So I think that it's very interesting. So this manifesto, because the concept of demopraxia in this moment that we are living, I think is very actual. So, or maybe more than ever. So
yes.
If you go,
but let's start with demopraxia, and then we come to.
Oh yes, but I think that it's very
interlinked. You mean?
We are very much indeed. Thank you, Federico and Nicole, for bringing out the issue. And the origin of the theory of demopraxia is on the realization that the world itself is an immense and gigantic artwork, meaning it is the result of the intervention of humans on the planet, to the bad and the good. And art as well is capable of the most beautiful, but also the less beautiful, the least beautiful accomplishment. So once we realize that the world itself is the result of ourselves exercising our power of intervention, of impact on the world, we realize that we need to look with careful attention to how we exercise this power, how we distribute this power, how do we handle this power. If the world itself should be the most democratic art world in history, because it is made by all of us, is it really the case? Or perhaps have we not gone to a situation where only some of us are extending their impact on the world, and the rest have to participate in something that leaves us unsatisfied, unhappy, and the relation with the world totally unharmonious, totally unbalanced, not at all representable with the third paradise symbol, that is the symbol of balance and equilibrium. No? So if we start to look at reality in this way, we realize that where does the power of people lie? Where is it exactly? Because we have come to think that it is mostly in the political representative election dimension. But more than that, it is where everybody of us spend their time every day and make things that they do. That's the way we impact and even mold the world as though it was made of clay. It is the relationships between us and the others, me and you, as the symbol of the third paradise says. The relationship between the humans and nature, and the animals and the climate and water and all that, how do we exercise our own impact on that? When we spend our time in our life, we group in organizations. We are not lost in a totality of individualism. In real fact, we are either in a company, big or small, we perhaps work in a school, we spend our time in a hospital, in a service providing organization, and there we make decisions with our peers, or maybe with our associates, or with our bosses. We make decisions regarding exactly all of these aspects. How do we treat one another? How do we rule our economic relations? How do we say hello to one another? How do we feed? How do we wear? How do we do everything we do? And starting from these questions, we began to realize that democracy is mostly exercised by people within their organizations. But too bad that we don't know. Too bad that nobody ever told us that we are making artworks every time we do something. Every time we realize and we create something. This is one of the major inputs from Pistoletto. One of his sentences is creating is human. To create is human. So it belongs to humanity, to all of us. But it is not only the very accomplished artistic creation that we can see in the museum that is creation. It is also all this enormous range of actions and activities that we undertake as humans. So once we realized that, thanks to the opportunity of working with socially engaged artists, the artists that came to the school of the University of Ideas from the late 90s, as we were saying and hearing before, year after year, we would invite over to our premise in Biella tens of these practitioners. And they would come eager to learn, but also to share what they were doing in their own contexts and communities. And they would come with stories of interfering with the way people live. For example, in the housing rights environment. For example, in Houston, one of our teachers who comes to the University of Ideas to teach tells us the story of how with his community they began to represent not only the image of the people who were homeless, like in murals, for example, where you paint people who don't have a house, for example, if that is your area of concern. From that representation, move into making houses, putting roofs on top of people's heads in the very neighborhood in Houston where they would, years before, make murals. So moving from representing a problem to working together in order to tackle a need and an issue. As an artist-based community, working along with architects, developers, town administration, and even philanthropists who would also give the money, but also lawyers would help in understanding how to make houses and put them on the market at a price that is affordable for people who normally wouldn't be able to afford one. So this project of direct intervention in the social sphere, sorry, this is exactly what shouldn't happen, but I'm sorry, I can't find my telephone now, so I'm afraid I will have to move it later. But I was just giving this example to give you a possibility to picture what we mean by art becoming practical and even having an impact on people's life. It is not just a representation. That is the sort of school that you would find here at the Academy of University of Ideas. And starting from that, with the help of a lot of local practitioners and even activists from social impact driven organizations, we put together a specific methodology. How do you bring together in a town or in a neighborhood these practitioners who are already exercising democratic power in their social sphere? And so in order to do that, we put together this prototype of social design that is made into 3 phases. And we had the chance to start off in different places in the world, starting in Cuba in 2015, to experiment with a pilot project that moved from this along these lines of direct intervention. And then we had the opportunity to have other places where to engage directly. And of course, in Italy, we had the chance to experiment in Milan and Rome, and now we are opening a new chapter in Biella. But also we had the opportunity to work in Melbourne, in Australia, in Bali, and in South America, in Brazil and Argentina. So there are many places where already we are experimenting with the methodology that, if you like, Nicole and Federico, we can talk about it later, how it actually works. But to reply to your question about democracy and how it is connected to art, the art of making the world together in a democratic way. And when we say making, we mean praxis, the practices. It is not just ideologies, but rather it is really practicing within a social context. And bear in mind, there is no practice that is not linked to an underlying theory or vision. It is not possible for us humans. Whatever we do, even the most trivial and banal activity, it always connects to an idea, an image, a vision that we have, be it just feed ourselves or feed our children or walk and go somewhere from one place to another. There is always, every practice is not just a practice. It entails a Weltanschauung, a vision of the world. But these dichotomies are exactly what the third paradise wants to help bring together. Theory and practice. How can we bring them together in harmony? So this is really the basis of the school, but also the basis of the direct program of democracy. We can't hear you, Nicole.
No? And me? You can hear
Sorry,
me?
no.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, Paolo. But now I came across this new idea of pan-demopraxy. How did the role of community empowerment changed maybe during COVID, that you even wrote a different manifesto on this new term? So yeah, how did it started and what lies behind this concept?
Well, as we all know, during COVID, most of us, even now, we are into the same situation of being locked down. And so we cannot move. We need to reformulate our relation with our home, our place, where we belong. Some of us, most of us, had moved into a strange situation where this would be your home, but as a matter of fact, you wouldn't know even your neighbor. You wouldn't know much of the trees around you, if there are, of the other buildings, of the sounds of the streets. And all that was kind of removed from your conscience, and you were totally projected into somewhere else, in an elsewhere, although life was always elsewhere, and not where you belong, not where you reside, not where your home is. But during lockdown, we were forced to reconnect to this. And for us, and for some of us, it was sometimes disturbing or shocking. For most of us, on the contrary, it was a rediscovery of an immense wealth in our life that we were running the risk of forsaking. So starting off from that, and starting off from the acknowledgement that all socially engaged art practices, the ones that I was briefly mentioning before, are situated, are site-specific. They happen somewhere, and that specific somewhere, they connect to the context, to the communities, to the people, but also to the environment that is happening there. Bringing together these two elements, I was also locked down in Cittadellarte because I live in Cittadellarte. The premises of these foundations are in a former wool mill, 19th century, along a river, and in this industrial town of Biella, that is between Milan and Turin in the north of Italy. And the place where Cittadellarte is founded in the 90s by Pistoletto and his wife and a group of friends are a former, where they used to be abandoned. And they used to be void and empty. But time, year after year, they were slowly recovered, regenerated, restored, and restituted to public utilization. But during lockdown, they were empty again. Only myself and Pistoletto himself were living here in the compound of Cittadellarte. And in that situation, I questioned myself deeply, as most of us. And I questioned the role and the impact of what we were doing as our contribution to the others, to ourselves as well, to our future. And I realized that the thing that we needed most, and we do need most in our life, is exactly what the symbol of the third paradise represents. That is equilibrium, is balance. Our ability to totally lose balance and go from an unbalance to another unbalance is extraordinary. But our need, deep, but also practical, to regain balance, to practice balance, to enact balance with our life, with nature, with the environment, with one another, is probably the wisest contribution that we can get from visionaries and philosophers and people who came before us. So working on that, I then moved to realize that we just can't work alone. Even practicing balance alone is definitely not enough. It is necessary. That's where we need to start from, but it can't be enough. So what do we need? We need to multiply, we need to connect, we need to spread. And exactly like a contagion does. If we were to be able to produce a benevolent virus, a balancing contagion that would help people to incorporate and enact this program of refocusing on values and on balancing their lives, we could learn from a pandemic a lesson. And then I realized that already there were many places where this was happening, where this art of balance was being practiced. So we needed to learn from their voices. So what I said is that what we need now is to inquire, explore, and listen from the ones who are practicing the many solutions to energy problems, to water issues, to intercultural issues, to economic and development issues, and sustainability issues in all the 360 degrees. Learn from them. And so I made a call, starting off from the first ring around Cittadellarte, that is exactly represented by people like you, by the ambassadors of the third paradise. The ones who are like ambassadors, they are exactly appropriating and reverberating these conversations and renegotiating them in their own locale, in their own context, with the very people, persons, and organizations that they work along with. This was an immense wealth, this first ring of people really like electrons around the nucleus of an atom, bringing energy to the world. And so I made a call to them to let us know, how do they do what they do? And I took advantage from a song from a very popular band in Italy, whose name is Subsonica, who made a collaboration with Pistoletto in the Third Paradise program. They created a song under the title of the Third Paradise, and the finale of the song goes exactly asking these questions. It is actually the leader of the band that, when he wrote the song, was looking at his daughter, and he began to think of these questions and kind of ask her these questions. How will you do what you will do? How will you learn? How will you wear? How will you feed? How will you make decisions? How will you move from one place to another? How will you do all the things that humans do? And by doing the things we do, we make the world. Because the world is not just natural. No, it is natural and ours, as I was saying. So focusing on these questions, I said, shall we be able to learn from you and pandemicize this knowledge in a democratic way? And then I came to this very problematic word of pandemopraxy that Federico was recalling before, in order to mean that, so to pandemize the practice of our making the world an artwork without power.
Thank you. And was there maybe also a best practice for this new concept? So you started already to talk about this band, but were there other experiences you could share with us?
Very much so. Thank you, Nicole. I would like to mention a specific research program that is exactly about that, of exploring and bringing together, like in a sort of living archive, these practices. Of course, they will not be all of them, but in the hundreds of them. The project is called Visible, in order to visibilize these practices, this region that is where these practices happen, and they tend to be unseen or invisible. So amongst these that you can check on the web, as I said, visibleproject.org. Amongst these practices, in their hundreds, I can recall one that is very dear to me, because it really was very insightful. It is carried out by a duo, a couple of artists, whose name is Cooking Sections. Cooking Sections, so it's really funny, their name, but you understand why they the name is cooking section. They were invited to, on the Isle of Skye in the north of Scotland, an island whose economy is mostly based on tourism. It's a beautiful island. And in the tourism compartment of economic sector, a big area is represented by food, restaurants, but also farming, whiskey, of course. And when they moved there, they were invited to make a project for a community, and the project was probably intended to be like a new form of monument, like, you know, public art project, more or less traditional. But they began to connect as though they would live there. They, of course, lived for a temporal amount of time, a limited amount of time. But they connected with the locality, with the communities. And what emerged was, whatever emerged would have been for them the matter, the clay to work upon. And what emerged was that this community was very, very worried about its future because of the climate change impact on the farming of salmons. And in its turn, by the impact that the farming of salmons was having on the environment. It was a bay on the coast, and all these salmon farming plants were affecting the quality of water to the extent that they were even affecting climate, local climate. So it was a vicious circle, and they began to work with the community, making interviews, looking at what the actual situation was. And all together, nobody knows whose idea it was, but it doesn't matter because the process is what really matters. Altogether, they made a decision to experiment with farming not only, and not salmon, but seafood, as in sea clams, mussels, oysters. Why, would one say? That is only because this industry cleans water. Because these animals, they suck water in, they purify water, and they push it out purified. But also, while doing that, they grow and they become seafood. So the community made the effort to try and develop the first farming of seafood in this bay. And the success was so big that now more than 10 restaurants in the area took the salmon, the farmed salmon, off their menu, and they introduced locally grown seafood under these circumstances. But now this project has been invited from Tate Gallery, and cooking sections and the Climavore, as it is called, program has been invited, and I'm told that even the Tate Gallery restaurant is shifting from farmed salmon to seafood grown and farmed in this way. So it is hard, perhaps, to picture how this can be associated with a painting or a sculpture. We need to go back to Pistoletto's theory, but even to other artists and theoreticians. I can obviously think of Joseph Beuys, for example, and the social sculpture program, or Bauhaus, or many other predecessors in this quest for art to have a direct impact on life, even going beyond the frame of the painting. But Pistoletto did it himself. Behind my shoulder, I have a mirror painting, and there's no frame. It wouldn't make sense. The mirror painting opens not only the frame of the painting itself, but even the barrier that is between hanging painting representation and the reality that is represented in the mirror. So we are in this line of thinking and of activity. So to reply to your interesting question, Nicole, I would point to this specific practice as very, very inspirational.
Yes. Yeah, and I believe so as well. On one hand, there are so many socially engaged artists needed, right, to implement the seeds in society. And maybe then we also can link the project then to Hungary and Budapest for this embassy that we would like to found there, right? And on the other hand, you also remind me when you mentioned Bauhaus that the EU also wants to create a new Bauhaus in Europe. Yeah, so where art is not something that is separated from society, but is more like inclusive. And to me, it also had this impression that art was acknowledged for the cultural values that can be shared with art, right? So, but how would you also, Federico, because you were part of last year's introduction, let's say, of the Rebirth Forum idea and the third paradise, what would be your reflection, how it all started last year? And maybe, Paolo, you also can share your video you prepared, right? Because we have like 15 minutes left. And this would be, I think, great for those who are not familiar yet with the concept, that we would kind of invite them to be part of the third paradise in Hungary.
Yeah, maybe I add one thing, because regarding the manifesto that you did after the pandemic, during the pandemic period. So in my opinion, one point that was very interesting, because you are talking about a rebirth from this pandemic. So it means that will be very more actual, and maybe also in my opinion, people have a different outlook in this moment, also in the future, because obviously this pandemic period for sure will be prolonged for I don't know how many months or years, but now we have to try to live together with this virus. But I think that the approach of the people will change, because in my opinion, you say correct in your video that you say, or we decide to do the same life as before, or we decide to change. So in my opinion, will be the very good starting point for the next year forum in Budapest, because the people, in my opinion, will be more motivated. And people maybe that before doesn't care so much about some problem, now they will care much more. So I think that really can be a very, it will match perfectly the concept of Rebirth regarding the forum next year. So because people change completely the mentality, in my opinion, hopefully.
So for you, it's also about values, right? So that we would choose different values than before.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because we were deprived of many fundamental freedom in this period, and we accept it. But I think we start to give more value to different things that before probably we don't care, or because we live a normal life without any missing, and we say, okay, our life is perfect like that. But maybe now we understand when there is something like that that touches everybody without any distinction. So from this, we can consider like invisible world. So from this, and somehow we have to rebirth, and probably the forum can be the perfect event that can give a continuation and probably a new restart also in Budapest, and to involve more people to participate. But I'm sure that people will participate with more enthusiasm, and also they will change their own outlook in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully.
Thank you so much. So Paolo, could you please share the video you prepared, and if you like also you can share the documentation from last year to give our audience a bit an overview what has happened so far.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm moving to that. And unfortunately, this is not from the start. I would like to start from the start. And here you can probably understand that we are inside the Art Market Budapest 2019 with a big group of friends and collaborators, also Attila, who invited us in the first place, and the director of the Institute of the Italian Institute of Culture as well, and lots of friends. I'm glad to show this picture. This is an artwork by Michelangelo. It is called the Reinstated Apple, that was last year's exhibited just in this beautiful building beside the fair itself. And as you can see, it is the reinstatement, bringing together the bite that humans have made to the apple. This is a biblical image, but it is also a very technological image, because if you look at what an apple today represents computers, represents technology, it represents a totally technologized world. But this bite also means pain, means a sufferance that we have brought to the earth. So what we need to do now is to stitch it back and to reintegrate this bite to the apple. And in order to do that, we need the best abilities that we can, and skills that we can develop. We need scientists, we need technologists, we need technicians, and of course we need politicians, we need all sorts of humans and human creators. So there is again a representation of a global artwork. And this is where we were together last year with a group of participants to this preliminary event where we discussed about what we could do in Budapest, what needed to be done, which were the most pressing issues that worried people and impacted on people's life, as long as, of course, on the contrary, the most beneficial ones. I remember we talked about both. We talked about mobility as one major asset for the town, at least last year, I understand, and even about homelessness. Lots of people having these terrible life conditions. We kept discussing in this beautiful scenario, just again in front of the art fair building, another building. It's the premises of the European Contact Point, European Union Contact Point. And on the ground level, we had this plenary session. We were about 25, 35 people, different moments for 3 days, coordinated by Nicole and a group of collaborators from Cittadellarte. And as you can see, in the middle of our plenary session, there was the reenactment of the third paradise symbol, but these cubes bring another symbol on their top face. And the symbols are the 17 goals from United Nations of the Agenda for 2030 for Sustainable Development. So really, this is to represent that the agenda for sustainability matches entirely the third paradise philosophy and vision. And to be, if one asked me to be practical about the third paradise, it would be enough to make reference to the 17 symbols and the 167 sub-objectives that are relevant under these 17 goals. So this was the place where the discussions and the conversations were happening. Then in the fair, the third paradise itself was invited as a philosophy and a symbol and an artwork. Of course, it is a new genre of artwork, as it is totally spread and distributed, and it is reconfigured in thousands of installments. There are thousands of symbols of the third paradise in the world, from United Nations to, now I will show you one installment of the third paradise symbol. For example, in this one, can you see the Louvre Pyramid?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so this was of course, temporal one, just for 5 to 6 months in Paris. But I can show you this. This is permanent installation. Just give me a second. Okay, I can see this. This is in Geneva. It's the United Nations premises, and these are 192 stones provided by each country. So it's really a representation of the symbol becoming assumed by the United Nations as a symbol for their own program and agenda. And then there are really thousands of other installments, sometimes very ephemeral, like a performance, sometimes permanent. But in order to move towards the conclusion and replying to the invitation by Nicole and Federico to talk about the potential enactment or installment of a third paradise forum initiative in Budapest, I would like to show you an animation that really goes into how do we do it? How is it that we can come to create such an ambitious program in a place? This is a video that lasts 3 minutes, and it is subtitled in English because the voice is in Italian. But I hope you can follow through it, and then we will conclude.
Le persone, unite all'interno di ogni piccola o grande organizzazione, creano forme di microgoverni, le cui decisioni hanno un forte impatto sulla vita quotidiana. Per connettere questi nuclei ed estenderne la partecipazione all'intera società, Cittadellarte ha creato un metodo: l'arte della democrazia. La democrazia è una pratica partecipativa messa in atto attraverso un percorso in 3 fasi. La prima fase è quella della mappatura. L'ambasciata del Terzo Paradiso affida a un gruppo di persone il compito di realizzare la mappatura. A chiamata diretta e attraverso un bando pubblico si individuano tra 50 e 100 associazioni e organizzazioni che già agiscono in linea con i 17 obiettivi di sviluppo sostenibile delle Nazioni Unite. Queste formano un coro, da cui si raccolgono documenti emblematici del territorio, interviste, video, fotografie, oggetti e testi. L'insieme di questi materiali si traduce in una esposizione aperta alla città. Ogni realtà coinvolta prende coscienza di sé nel confronto con l'altro e assume maggiore risonanza. Emergono i temi più sentiti, che saranno il punto di partenza per la seconda fase, il forum. Le organizzazioni mappate sono invitate a iscriversi al forum insieme ad associazioni di categoria, istituzioni ed enti di ricerca, rappresentati ognuno da un membro delegato. Qui i temi emergenti vengono discussi secondo i principi della trinamica, grazie a dei facilitatori, in sessione plenaria, in tavoli di lavoro di 8-10 persone e di nuovo in plenaria. Il terzo e ultimo giorno, in una sessione pubblica, si presenta la Carta del Forum, un piano d'azione contenente una lista di intenzioni e progetti da mettere in pratica, ognuno nella propria organizzazione. Inizia la fase 3, il cantiere. Ogni membro delegato porta la discussione nella propria associazione. Tra quelle che hanno obiettivi comuni, continuano i lavori nei forum di settore, a cui partecipano anche i rappresentanti delle associazioni di categoria e delle istituzioni pubbliche. Insieme stipulano proposte che vengono vagliate e approfondite dagli enti di ricerca scientifica universitaria. La presenza costante nei forum annuali e intermedi delle associazioni di categoria e degli enti pubblici di ogni livello permette di integrare la politica democratica a quella istituzionale. Con lo sviluppo della politica democratica, le organizzazioni, anche private, partecipano al governo della res pubblica. Ogni singola persona, in questo modo, partecipa attivamente al governo del popolo. Si realizza dunque praticamente l'ideale democratico.
Okay. So perhaps
Yeah.
there are some comments or questions.
Yes, so we received one question. If people are interested in to participate in the Third Paradise program next year, or are even interested now, to whom they can act and and I think maybe this is also a good starting point. You can leave your email addresses in the chat so that these email addresses of the three of us, right, can be shared. Because I think we all work or would love to continue this process we started last year. And of course, everyone is warmly invited to be part of this great art process and art project, and hopefully then also the societal dimension that comes within, right? And this would be so wonderful. I would have tons of questions to you, and I would love it to continue this conversation, but our time is already over, unfortunately. And so if you like to add something or you wish to add something to the
may I? Yes.
Yes,
okay.
Please.
Yes. Now, regarding your question, I think we will leave our email in the chat, but probably we will update also the Rebirth Forum Budapest webpage will be updated, so also the people can get information from that. Of course, now we don't know exactly. The period can be October. The date is not fixed yet, but for sure we will start to collect people that information about people that want to participate to the event. And
yes.
That's why I also thanks Paolo and obviously Michelangelo for the trust. And I promise I do my best. Then the Rebirth Forum 2021 will be a success. I put all my effort. And I thanks twice also them because I think sometimes it's nice to remember and in public that also if my hometown, that is the same of Paolo Biella, is even better known in Italy and abroad, is thanks to the work of Pistoletto and Fondazione Cittadellarte and Fondazione Pistoletto. So in my opinion, this is important to remind, and this is the message. Our art is very important to send messages around the world. How can improve also the better life in a city. So absolutely. And the last one, before that I concluded, we thanks also Attila Ledegny and Art Market for the kind invitation and to be able to organize also Art Market 2020 in this difficult moment. So congratulations to them. So I say thanks and to everybody, and hope to see you soon in person and not in video, because it will be that the situation is better. So
yeah. Thank you so much, Federico. So Paolo, you also like to add something, maybe?
Well, I really want to share the thank yous that Federico has offered to Art Market Budapest and to you, Nicole, for organizing this event. And in a year from now, is a long time. There's a lot of time to do a lot of things. So we can really get in touch. Some of people from Budapest already were there last year. Perhaps some are following us today. If they do, I say hello again to you. And so in the next months before October, we can come together, we can meet up and discuss and see what can be done, and trust Federico as our group leader in order to carry out this possible experiment of social artwork and design, which is our greatest ambition, but also probably our greatest necessity today.
Yes. So thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to hear from you and to get your insights, all things you shared with us, with the audience. It was a big pleasure, and I hope that we could inspire many people to participate in this great project. And I would like to conclude this now and wish all people peace. Of course, take good care during these pandemic times, and of course, let's be hopeful that we can change the world to the better. But everyone, of course, should start from his or her own, right? And give a hand to the people around. And therefore, I invite you again to look at the website. The emails will be shared. And also wish you a great Art Market Budapest 2020 this year. And we will be in touch for further events, of course. And I also would love to have this online meeting, maybe, or we start an online meeting series to prepare the third Paradise